Who's really playing the politics of fear and division? I'm Brian Lilley with TheRebel.media. Justin Trudeau is accusing Stephen Harper and the Conservatives of being divisive on the issue of niqabs or any face coverings at citizenship ceremonies. We've talked about this issue many times over the last few months. A woman from Pakistan. She moved to Canada. She wanted to become a Canadian citizen, but when she was told, you'll have to show your face while swearing the oath of allegiance to Canada, she refused, and she went to court. Zunaira Ishaq said that as a Muslim woman, she couldn't show her face with men present, so she was going to change the rules. She wanted a lower court. The judge, knowing perhaps that religious freedom wouldn't actually hold up in this case, instead ruled that the requirement that everyone show their face breached the freedom that judges need. The story's been in the headlines off and on for months now. The government is appealing the court ruling, but last week, just before the House of Commons broke for the summer and the election, Conservative MP and Minister of State for Multiculturalism Tim Uppal introduced a new bill, C-75, which would make a number of changes to the Citizenship Act, including this. If a person is required under this act to take the oath of citizenship, the person shall swear or affirm the oath out loud and with their face uncovered in the form set out in the schedule and in accordance with the regulations. So who's against this? Not many Canadians. I'll show you the poll results in a moment, but Justin Trudeau is, and he even said in French that the Conservatives were using Tim Uppal, a visible minority, Trudeau pointed out, to attack Muslims. See, in Trudeau's eyes, telling everyone to show their face is an attack on Muslims. Treating everyone the same is an attack on Muslims to him.
There seems to be a play even by the Conservatives towards cultural communities to try and single out Islamic Canadians from that particular group of new Canadians.
Well, here's a hint of why that might be. No other group, ethnic or religious, is showing up at citizenship ceremonies with their faces covered. Trudeau calls this divisive. He calls it mean-spirited by the Conservatives. Well, let me show you those poll numbers I mentioned earlier on. Back in March, when this exploded in the news, and Trudeau, NDP leader Tom Mulcair, and most media outlets were being sympathetic to the idea of letting Muslim women cover their faces or have their own separate women-only citizenship ceremonies, essentially endorsing Sharia by stealth, Ipsos Reid did a cross-Canada poll. More than 1,000 Canadians across the country taking part in a survey from probably the most respected polling firm in the country. And here's what they found. I'm going to quote directly from the news release so you know I'm not twerking this. News release said, government's position supported by a majority of voters in each party. The data revealed that a majority of voters for every party support the government's position. Conservative voters are most likely to support the requirement that people show their faces in a citizenship ceremony, 96%, but most Liberal, 85%, NDP, 83%, and Bloc, 81% voters also feel the same way. A majority of Conservative, 78%, Bloc, 76%, NDP, 66%, and Liberal, 60% voters disagree that allowing Muslim women to wear a niqab or burqa when they are being sworn in as Canadian citizens is acceptable. And then finally, most Bloc, 86%, Conservative, 84%, NDP, 70%, and Liberal, 66%, party voters agree that face coverings such as the burqa or niqab are symbols of oppression and rooted in a culture that is anti-woman. Far from being divisive, what the government is doing is fairly unifying. A strong majority of Liberal Party voters and NDP voters support this idea as well. And in every party, in every region of the country, people are saying, you know what, in Canada, you show your face. Now, this isn't a call to ban the niqab. It's simply a requirement to show your face while taking an oath of allegiance to your new country. But Trudeau thinks that's a charter violation.
The Liberal Party is the party of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and we will expect that any legislation put forward by the government be charter compliant.
Ah yes, Trudeau and the Liberals, champions of the Charter. Just as an aside here, 2 years ago, Canada had the biggest violation of civil liberties by a police force, and Trudeau and his Liberals have ignored it. They've failed to ask a single question because it's about guns. Yep, police can knock down your door, take your stuff without a warrant. He won't care, but ask someone to show their face, and Trudeau's there to defend charter rights. But how would requiring someone to show their face in front of men be a charter violation? Well, Trudeau would claim, and many others do, that this is an issue of religious freedom. It's a false argument. Many argue that the niqab and burqa are cultural, not religious. Now, in fact, the niqab is banned in many Muslim countries. It's even banned at Egypt's largest and most important Islamic school. So that may be a valid argument that it's cultural, not religious. But even if you accept that it is religious practice, then explain why there are times within Islam that require women to show their faces, including in front of men. Explain why the niqab is banned at Mecca during the Hajj, the holy pilgrimage that each Muslim is required to perform at least once in their life. What Trudeau and Mulcair and the others are doing here is accepting a foreign cultural practice and putting it above centuries of legal and cultural tradition from this country. I understand multiculturalism, but that idea was never supposed to be about changing Ottawa into Riyadh or Vancouver into Lahore. But that's what's happening here. That's what they're supporting. This is the surrendering of Canadian culture for a foreign idea, a replacement of our culture with theirs. Trudeau is wrong. In fact, he is the divisive one. The majority of Canadians have it right. In Canada, you show your face.